I'm going to take you through the PowerPoint or the notes on kites and take you through a couple examples. All right, a kite is a quadrilateral that has the following properties. It's kind of unlike the other ones we've talked about. It has exactly two pairs of consecutive congruent sides. So if you look at the kite, this pair of sides and this side are going to be congruent to each other. This pair will be congruent. So we don't have any parallel sides, but we do have sides, two pairs of congruent, and they will come right in a row. That's what consecutive means. So if this side is congruent to this side, when I draw my diagonal in, this big triangle is an isosceles triangle, which is really helpful for you to be able to make some judgments about the lengths of those sides. In addition, just find my color here. This side is congruent to this side in a kite, which means this triangle is also isosceles. So we have one pair of opposite angles that are congruent, which is this angle ABC will be congruent to ADC. And since these are isosceles, this triangle and this angle are congruent to each other. And these two angles are going to be different than those two, but these two angles will be congruent because they are inside an isosceles triangle. The third property, like a rhombus and a square, your diagonals are perpendicular. So what that means is when I form my triangles, they're going to be right triangles. This is not a right isosceles, it's just simply a right. But this is also a right triangle over here that is congruent to that one. So we're going to kind of combine lots of information about our properties. All right, so let's go down to, let me just pull this out of my way, and try a couple with application so you can see how it works. I'm going to take you through the odd numbers down the left. Okay. All right, and so number one is asking us to find the measure of angles B and D. Remember, if this side is congruent and these two sides are congruent, I have one pair of opposite angles are congruent, which means this angle B is congruent to angle D. So to find it, all I need to do is figure out how many degrees are left in that kite and divide it evenly by 2. It's a quadrilateral, so the sum of all of my angles will be 360. If I add 85 and 43, I have 128. If I subtract that from 360, it means I have left 232 degrees. If I then divide that by 2, each of these angles will measure 116. All right, number 4, all we did now is draw our diagonals in. Remember, diagonals are perpendicular, so if you want to put your right angles, you can. Remember that this side is congruent to this side, so this makes an isosceles triangle, which means this angle here is congruent to this angle over here. So to find angle PTQ, it's a right angle. That will measure 90. To find the measure of angle PQT, which is this angle up here, remember I'm in a right triangle. So if I use 90, there's 90 left for these to share, not equally, but to share. So I take 90, I subtract 37, and that leaves me with 53 degrees for this angle right here. Remember that these two triangles are congruent to each other. So if I want to find the measure of angle QRT, that will have the same measure across. That's an isosceles triangle, so that would be 37, not 33. That would also be a 37-degree angle. All right, please make a note of anything that you might have a question on number 3. And let's go on, we'll add some more to number 5. Number 5 is going to ask us to find all the different angle measures from 1 to 7. Personally, I think it's easy to plug them in your diagram first, everything you know. If this is 65, remember you're inside an isosceles triangle, that means 4 will be 65. If this is 52 right here, it means this is a 52-degree angle. I have 90 degrees in each of these angles in the center, so that makes angle 3 90. To find the measures of 5 and 6, which are exactly the same, remember I'm inside a right triangle. So if this is 52, all I have to do is take 90, subtract 52 to get the measure of angle 5, which would be 38. Which means angle 6 is also 38. So to get the missing angles 1 and 2, which are going to be the same, all I have to do is add up what I've already used. subtract it from 360, which will always be my sum in any quadrilateral. So if I add 65 plus 38, I'm going to get 103. Remember, this angle's the same, so I'll just double it. I'll then add the sum of these two. 52 and 52 is 104. Whoa, wait a minute. 65, give me a second, plus 38 times 2, and then add to that your 104. I now have used 310 degrees for this big angle, and this big angle. So if I subtract that from 360, I'm left with 50. These two angles, because remember, these two triangles are congruent, so therefore angles 1 and 2 will be exactly the same. Take that 50, divide it by 2. Each of these has a measure of 25. So now all I got to do is locate. Angle 1 is 25. Angle 2 is 25. Angle 3 is 90, because that will always be perpendicular in the center. Angle 4 will be 65. Angle 5, which is up here, is 38. Angle 6, right across from it, isosceles triangle, gives me 38. And angle 7, which is up here, will be a 52-degree angle. Okay, all right. And the last one, number 7. Number 7, we just mark our diagram. I'm having trouble with my Moby tonight. Okay, in number 7, it says that WX, which is this leg right here, is a measure of 14. WR, which is this piece right here, has a length of 8, and they want you to find RZ. Remember, RZ is exactly the same as RX, which will have a length of X, or I could plug the 14 over here because these sides are congruent. In either case, I'm finding a missing side in a right triangle, either this one or this one. Makes no difference which one you use. Remember, your right angles come in the center. So this is my right angle, makes these two my legs. Therefore, the 14 is my hypotenuse. So my equation will say x squared plus 8 squared will equal 14 squared. 14 squared will give me 196, so it's x squared plus 64 is equal to 196. Subtract your 64 from both sides. You'll get x squared equals 132. And then you simply square root both sides, and the square root of 132 will give me 11.489125. I'm going to round to the nearest tenth, so x will have a value of 11.5. All right, I'm going to ask you to go ahead and complete 2, 4, 6, and 8, and we'll check those in class tomorrow before we begin our lesson. Okay, please note any questions that you might have. Okay, you can stop your video now.